Hello everyone. In this session, we're going to be discussing relative and absolute positioning using CSS. Let's start with relative positioning. On our screen, you can see that we have Beaches of Barbados as the heading text. Next, we have an HR line. Then we have some text in a box in a CSS container, and then we have a picture of Mullins Beach. We want to demonstrate relative positioning by being able to move this element, this text element, Beaches of Barbados. We want to be able to move it either up, down, left, or right, but we don't want to move the rest of the elements in the page. In other words, when we move Beaches of Barbados, we want Beaches of Barbados to ignore the other elements on the page as far as being able to push those elements down. Now, let me demonstrate. If we wanted to push Beaches of Barbados down, we could simply put some enters or BRs before Beaches of Barbados, and once we push that down, you're going to see that everything goes down with it. Let's look at it. Going to go into the develop mode, pick the file up. Here we have the index file, and we're going to look for Beaches of Barbados within the body of our document. There it is, Beaches of Barbados. And we can see that Beaches of Barbados is enclosed in an H1 tag. So we need to go and look for the style sheet for the H1 tag. Notice we have here H1 and we have the CSS within the curly brace. Remember that your CSS goes inside of the style sheet, which is in the head. So when I click on style, beginning style tag, I should see that there's also an ending style tag. Now let's look at the CSS. You start first with the position, and you say the position colon relative. Now you can use top, bottom, left, or right to move that element. And the element that we're talking about is the heading Barbados Beaches. So let's try it. We're going to change the top to 40 px. And what we want to look at when we refresh the page is that when the picture moves down, or when the text moves down, it doesn't push the document with it. So you see that Beaches of Barbados came and it's out right in the middle of that line. Ordinarily, if you use an enter, which is a break, it would push everything down. Let's try that. Let's go back into the develop code. We're going to take out the 40. And we're going to try to push that Beaches of Barbados down. And you're going to see that when we push it down, everything is going to move with it. So we're going to put in one BR. We're going to put in another BR. And we're going to look at it. And you can see that the text has moved down the screen, but what it did is that it pushed everything down with it. With absolute positioning or relative positioning, we are not going to affect the changes that are on the screen at all. So we put back in the 40. Maybe let's try 60 to see that it will go down to whatever px you put in. And we don't want those enters in, those breaks. So let's just remove the breaks. Refresh the document. And let's see what happens. So it has actually moved Beaches of Barbados down 60 pixels. So we see that we could push and pull the element in whatever direction we chose. It is not going to affect the rest of the page. Let's try pushing that element over the Barbados Beaches. So we want to look for the style sheet for the H1 tag. I want to push it over maybe 30 px so we can see the difference. And let's see if it moved. Yes, it did. You can see that you have space to the left here, which is 30 px. So it has actually pushed Beaches of Barbados over without actually interfering with the flow of the document. So relative positioning is essentially a way of taking an element without removing it from the natural flow of the page and just pull it a bit to the left, the right, the top, or the bottom. Again, without affecting the natural flow of the page. So it does not affect the rest of the elements on the page at all. The rest of the page acts as if no change has occurred. So next we want to look at absolute positioning. And let's go back to the code. And we want to remove the 60 for the top. We put that back to 0, 0. And let's save that change. Let's see if the change is there. Yes, we have that where we want it to be. Now, we're going to look at absolute positioning. In absolute positioning, the object is positioned in accordance with the parent element. In this case, our parent element is actually our app screen. So let's demonstrate with the picture. Now we have a picture here, and if you go into the code, you can see that the picture is in an image tag. Let's remove the comment from the CSS code for the picture. So we say we have to start with position absolute. So bottom and right. So if we were now to say that we wanted the picture to the bottom of the screen and to the right of the screen, we would have to put in our CSS just what we see here. Position absolute, bottom 0, right 0. Now here is our container code for the CSS for the text. Let's look at that before we actually position the picture. For the CSS, the background color of our container is light blue. The padding, which is the space between the text and the edge of the box, we have that at 40. Let's just put that at 20 left, 20 right, 0 for the bottom, and 20 for the top of the box. And this line on line 28 is the code that will give us the box. The border, we say, is 3px. It is a solid border and the color of that border is blue. Now, we don't want to use the position relative here yet, so we're going to take out that position relative. Now, let's go back to the image. Right now, for image, we have that the position is absolute, the bottom is 0, and the right is 0. So that if we were to emulate and look at that, let's see where the picture is. And we actually have to scroll down the screen to see this picture. So you can see that the picture actually went here to the bottom right. The bottom right of the parent document. Remember that the parent document is the screen of the app itself. Now let's change the position. Let's say that we want the position to be top right. So we type top instead of bottom. And then when we make the change, when we emulate, we should see that the picture, which is right here on line 27 in the body, it should obey the CSS because it's within the image tag. So let's emulate and see if it does. Yes, it goes to the top right. But let's say, for example, that we did not want to put the picture, or we didn't want to align it with the screen, the parent document. We wanted the picture to go to the bottom right of this container here, instead of the bottom right of the screen, or the top right of the screen, or the top left of the screen, or wherever we want to push and pull it. Because with absolute or relative positioning, we just have to put in the pixels that we want and the picture will move exactly where we want it to move. But let us say then that we wanted this box here, this text, to be the parent element. And we want to position the picture to the bottom right of the box itself. Let's go back to the code. Let's go find the CSS code for the image or the picture. And we have here top right. And we said that we wanted to put the image at the bottom right of the container with the text. So we chose bottom. But in order to do that, we're going to have to put in a relative position in the container itself. So we would have to come here in the container and add another CSS line saying that the position is relative. So that if I have bottom 0 and right 0, it means the picture will go to the bottom right of this container instead of going to the bottom right of the parent screen. Let's try it. There you go. So the picture is at the bottom right of the text box there. So that's what we have with the position absolute. The position absolute aligns the element to its parent element. And the default parent element, remember, is the screen. So if we want to then align the picture or make the picture relative to an element, another element, we would have to make that element relative. So this positioning, absolute and relative positioning, is a very important tool that we will need to use when we are creating our apps. It gives us a lot of power over exactly where we want to position an element on screen. That is the end of this tutorial. Thank you for listening.